Well, in 1965, I was finishing my technical college 2 years, and therefore gaining and receiving the 3 A-levels that made up the 4 A-levels, plus a diploma in business studies, that gave me easy access to university. So I was lined up for university, but Dad said no, and I needed him to say yes, because given his income, I wouldn't get state help unless I was independent. The only way you can become independent, or was, I don't know if it's changed, was to spend 3 years waiting as an adult, working, so to speak, and then you could apply in your own right as if you were now an adult at whatever age that would have been. But I mean, that doesn't matter. 3 years. 18, so 19, 20, 21, yes. So at 21 I could receive a grant. Now that's important. There wasn't a formal way of automatically getting grants, loans in those days. You either got in on a grant or you paid yourself. And you could conceivably go to a bank and ask for a loan, but you'd have to be a proven genius, I think, to have got 3-year loan, an enough loan from a bank for 3 years, and to give you money for both fees and maintenance. So I couldn't go to university, and needless to say, I was extremely frustrated by this, because I'd achieved astonishing success from a secondary school and technical college to have such good A-levels, an A, 2 Bs, and it may have been a C or a D, I can't remember, in accountancy. They were in social sciences. Law, I got a grade A. Government and economics, I got Bs, 2 Bs, and a C or a D in accountancy. And the diploma, of course. Not that that really counted compared to the A-levels. So, well, you could say, in a sense, a really bad move on Dad's part, because, well, he would have, in fairness, he'd have had to pay, and it would have been, well, in those days, quite a lot of money. Imagine maintenance for 3 years, plus fees. But not a lot of money compared to his wealth, remember. Owned several houses in London. At that stage his mum hadn't died, so he hadn't inherited from mum, but he'd got his aunt's property, which was her share of the family fortunes from his granddad, who was the builder of street after street of London houses. So he was wealthy, really. He didn't liquidize his wealth. He didn't sell it, in a sense. He just kept it, and had a very good income, because he's manager of a stockbrokers and believed in business. Although he'd gone to a petty private school, he had achieved, from after the war, starting as an absolute underling in a stockbrokers to being a manager. And, fair enough, capable, well-known manager in his part of the city of stockbroking. Yes. So he didn't believe in education. Being a job by Monday boy. Didn't call me Marshall, it was always boy. Didn't like the name Marshall. So I did. Simplest way was apply to a job in London. I don't know how I particularly chose insurance. I was actually, I think, thinking of possibly shipping, not really banking. didn't ever quite occur to me stockbroking either, which is a surprise given Dad was a stockbroker manager, isn't it? Managed his own firm, well, not his own firm, but Yes, you could say it was a disaster. I was accepted because I got good school record, good results. It was a pretty low starting wage, of course, but tremendous future from a materialistic point of view. When I came to leave in the December, the chap said to me, well, you do realise there's more money here than anywhere else in the city, don't you? I said, yeah, well, yes, but it's a bit heavy on, they're all on pills. All the brokers, the qualified men in the office, they're all taking pills for stress and pills for heart, and he said, So he I think agreed with me knowingly that, yes, you are right, of course. He was a sort of manager and under manager himself, but I don't suppose he felt that was terribly satisfactory. I wouldn't like to have been him. So I left there before Christmas, and I did temporary work. That was really hard. Won't go into that in a minute, but I worked for Singer Sewing Machine Company for about 3 weeks in their accounts department, dealing just with late payment of bills and so on. Oh dear, that was so unbelievably, I thought it was a terrible life to live. And then I went to Costins. I think that might have been by after Christmas. Yeah, January something. Worked for Costins in their filing department. You can imagine how exciting that was. Goodness gracious, I thought, life is terrible in the work world. No wonder I don't want it. I want to go to university. And of course I wanted to go to university all the more. But you could argue that, well, of course this was just what you wanted, so that when you get to university in 3 years' time, my goodness, are you going to work, Marshall? You're going to make a success of this, because there's no way you want to be one of these poor drones, whether it's in the city of London or anywhere else. So, anyway, I've gone into the next year then. I won't go into that. Oh, grief, I've spent 8 minutes and it's been of no value to you, has it? I am sorry. But I'm wanting to run a few recordings that give record of, help me review how I got there. What I was intent on saying was, one of the things a young man has to cope with, which is wanting a partner like mad, of course, wanting a girlfriend. And I had, at the age of 17, had Linda, and she was absolutely, I was in love with her, head over heels. And lost her by the Christmas of my first year at Tech College. But yeah, so been longing for a girlfriend, of course. But insurance broking in the city was a man's world. When you went into the Lloyd's room, it was all men. And when you waited for to see an underwriter in one of the Lloyd's offices, as opposed to waiting in the Lloyd's room, and that I was doing that on a few occasions. I don't know why. Some were in offices and some were in the room, but well, it was a bit like a men's waiting room in a hairdresser's. There's some men's magazines around, which Marshall had not been exposed to this sort of thing before. Oh dear. Well, that didn't do Marshall any good, I can tell you. 19 and without a partner. But given my background, pornography was definitely not the way I wanted to go. But it took a long time in my life to escape, I suppose, the religious reason for such, and to embrace the real reason, that it's a byroad. It's a byroad just as much as career or gambling or any other addiction. Even, I might say, marriage and, family. Because it can crowd out God. I mean, quite literally, your mental powers, your thinking, and your leisure time can be filled with what amounts to an addiction, instead of thoughts of life and that which will enhance life, bring fullness of life, life eternal. That's the real evil of any addiction. Any addiction. It could be playing cards, it could be playing chess, it could be gardening, it could be anything that stops you spending your resources optimally. I'm thinking as an economist now, at least talking in that jargon, aren't I, when I talk about allocating resources. But that's the real evil. The rest is religious noise. It stops you making the efforts to make good decisions and be in good occupation or good everything. It simply blocks your reasoning. It crowds out thoughts of God. And of course, if you've some sort of vague religious cultural background, it gives you this nasty feeling of guilt, that in some fundamental sense you're not a good person now. And that's even worse. Now you're actually condemning yourself for the addiction that you're suffering from. And you are suffering from it because it's starving your future happiness and prosperity and fullness of life. So, may have taken 8 minutes to give a tedious introduction, but do you see in some sense what the young man is facing? Well, perhaps the young woman too. I mean, I don't know. Yes. That's it. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.